Hello, I'm Adam. Steven's going to be joining us in a few minutes. And welcome to the future of Azure DevOps. We changed the title on you guys, adding that portal preview a bit late after the big announcement this morning at the keynote. This talk is going to be kind of a complimentary talk to the one that just happened in this very room over the past hour. It looks like a few people stuck around, so if you did, that's great. Thanks for spending the time with us. If you didn't catch that talk, don't worry about it. We'll get you up to speed right away. All right. We got a lot to talk about, but before we do that, we're going to do something a little bit risky, but hopefully a little bit of fun. We're going to do kind of a live interactive icebreaker. We built a demo website that the URL is up on the slide, that we'd like you to all take out your devices, take out your laptops, take out your phones, your tablet, whatever you have on you, and just go to that. And what it is just a little app that shows photos of some of the people on the team back in Redmond, and they're making some funny faces and stuff like that. So just join me for a minute. We'll just take a minute, maybe a minute and a half, and just click on some of the pictures. And it's going to ask you to sort of match what the people are doing in the pictures to one of a few options that come up on the menu. So I'll do a few. It looks like this guy's happy. I'll click on there. Another guy looks like he probably needs a nap, so I will do that. And just do that along with me just once or twice. And what we're going to do is later on, Steven's going to come out and show you how we've been using the new portal over the past few days to operate this site. And he's going to go into great depth on all the fancy monitoring and management capabilities in the portal. But before we get to any of that, and hopefully we're wrapping up that icebreaker now, we're going to do a quick recap of the DevOps lifecycle, and then I'm going to jump into the new portal and do a quick intro demo. I know they went a little fast in the keynote, so we'll break things down just a little bit. We'll take a step back and talk about the new resource manager service that's powering the new portal and how you can get more information on that. Then Steven's going to come out and actually do that deep dive into operations, and then we'll wrap up and take some questions. So first, let's just talk about the DevOps strategy for Microsoft for just a minute. We really feel like DevOps is all about taking the best of all the services, all the APIs, all the tools, both platform and infrastructure, and have all that running on Microsoft's world-class cloud platform. And what does DevOps really mean? DevOps is all about removing friction for you and your collaborators throughout the entire life cycle of your projects that you're working on and that you care about. And what does that mean? That means all the way at the beginning, from planning, when it's time to craft your backlog and plan your execution, from coding, and then we have you covered with integrated build and test infrastructure in the cloud. Then, of course, it's time to deploy and operate that live service. And then, of course, iterate and improve as your applications evolve. So the first talk really covered the first few aspects. They spent a lot of time in work item tracking, coding, managing the build and test infrastructure. And in this talk, we're going to focus primarily on operating that live running app. So that's why we had to do that icebreaker. So with that, we're going to jump right into our first demo. So this is the new preview portal. And to get started, we're just going to go ahead and create our first application together. We're going to do that by opening the brand new Azure Gallery. The Gallery is your one-stop shop for all the Azure services and pre-built applications, not only provided by Microsoft, but also third parties. The other thing we're doing with this gallery, some of you might be familiar with the galleries we have in the current portal, is we're unifying all the technologies in the stack. So whether you're looking for a website, a virtual machine, a database, or some kind of application service, you've got one place to look for everything Azure related. And in this mobile-first, cloud-first world, where we're all using the various stores on all of our mobile devices, we think that you'll find this is a nice way to browse the ecosystem. So to get us started, we're going to go and create a website and a MySQL database. So you get a nice little blurb where the author of this item, in this case Microsoft, can kind of explain what you're about to get, maybe even show you a little preview and some screenshots. So the first thing I get asked is to name my resource group. Resource group is a concept we unveiled today for the first time that makes it easy to manage resources in Azure that share a common lifecycle and work together to actually be your application. So I'm having a website and a database. These things are going to work together, so they go in a resource group. So I'll give that a name. We'll call that Build Thursday Demo. And then I have to configure my website. So Bill Staples showed some of this in the keynote earlier, but he kind of breezed past a new concept that we're introducing today, and that's the web hosting plan. So a web hosting plan is a new feature, and what it does is it allows you to purchase a set of features and capacity that are web related, and then reuse those across all of, or as many of your websites as you'd like in that same resource group. So let's go ahead and see what it takes to create a web hosting plan. It's pretty straightforward. You give it a name. So I'll just call this My Plan. And then you choose your pricing tier. This is also something you saw earlier. It's a nice way for you to see what you're getting, basically have a clear understanding of all the features and all the capacity associated with each tier, along with a price estimate. The nice thing about that price estimate there, it's actually tailored to your offer type. So if you are an MSDN subscriber, which I'm sure many of you are, your MSDN discounts will actually be reflected in that estimate. So you really have a good understanding about what you're about to buy. By default, we're selecting the standard plan, the standard tier here, which has basically every feature that we have to offer. New thing that we're announcing today is also these basic tiers. And the basic tier also lets your site run on dedicated resources, but it doesn't have all the fancy management features. And of course, we've got our entry-level free and shared plans, which you can use for dev test to get started, runs on shared infrastructure. You don't get all the fancy management features, but it's free and it's free forever, which is kind of cool. I love autoscale. It's my favorite feature. The big buzz is that it's generally available today, so I'm going to stick with the standard plan. And I'm going to put this website in East Asia because I can. Now, I mentioned I'm going to create a MySQL database in this case. Now, we've continued our partnership with SuccessBricks, who makes a product called ClearDB, and that's a MySQL database that runs on Azure. And they're fully integrated into this experience. And something else that's kind of new today is they're able to expose their pricing tiers, that's SuccessBricks that is, with an experience that's with the same amount of fidelity as the first-party services. So we were just looking at the website's pricing tier offerings, and now we're looking at MySQL, same fidelity, consistent experience. So that's really cool. For this demo, the dev test workload should be fine. And we want it to be close to the website, so that's good. And since this is provided by a third party, there's some legal terms I have to accept. And that's it. Azure's going to go off, and it's going to create this website. It's going to create the database. It's going to create that web hosting plan that we talked about. That's going to take a minute. While that's going on, I'm going to customize my start board because, again, I can. And I want this to be personal. I want it to be mine. So I like here that I'm getting a view into the Azure Service Health. And it's great that everything's green, too. But it probably doesn't have to take up all that much space. So the parts are going to do adaptive rendering and use the space that you decide to give them the best they can. The tour is great, but I kind of know what I'm doing, so we're going to get rid of that. We're going to get rid of Quick Start. I definitely want to be up and told what's new, so as new features are released, I've got an entry point. We'll keep that. I definitely want to give the team feedback when I find bugs. This is a preview, so definitely going to keep that. And then billing, absolutely, I need to know how much money I'm spending. We're doing this whole demo with a free trial, so I can see how much money's left in my free trial. I'm definitely going to keep the gallery. And since this is a preview and I'll occasionally need to go to the current management portal, I'll keep the link over to that portal right here. And then this new app that I just created, which is done creating, it's pretty fast. I'll put that here, and then we're done. Before I jump into that app we just created, I just want to call some attention to the hubs that we have over here. And this is going to be your one-stop shop for all the things that we believe are going to be top of mind and you're going to need to be able to access at any time, no matter where you are in the new portal. So things like notifications. If I'm doing something in the portal, or one of my teammates, or one of your teammates, in fact, is doing something behind the scenes, you have a centralized place to get notified, which is kind of neat. You also get a centralized way to access all of your resources across the Azure platform. And you have an entry point as well into the full-blown billing experience. So that's really cool. So my app is created. I've got my website and a database. I have this nice graphical representation of my app that shows me not only what resources I have, it gives me a little hint into the current status of those things, and also gives me a way to navigate throughout the portal. We'll use that in just a second. So this is really cool here. Billing is something that I think can't be stressed enough. A couple people brought it up, but I really want to take a second and talk about this. In fact, we have a couple of our user researchers, Lydia and Joel, and they're actually outside waiting to talk to you guys and get some feedback. And because we just announced this stuff today, they were here yesterday asking people what they really want to see as improvements in our experience. And one of the top asks is billing. So we've done a couple of things there. Not only are you going to know how much each individual resource costs within your subscription, but you're going to get a view here of the resources that are working together to build an app, and you'll understand how much that app is costing you. In this case, it's brand new, so nothing's costing me anything, and I picked a free database, so that's not there. But you can imagine if you had 10 or 15 resources in this app, it'd be really great to be able to just at a glance see how much they're all costing you. The other thing that you get here is an aggregated view of all your operational events. So as we've enriched the platform with features like auto scale and backup, we've made sure that whenever those back-end or management operations take place, such as an auto scale going up or down, those things get logged. So you have a central place for all the resources in this app to log all of their events and for you to take a look at. And even just creating this simple website and database, Azure did a lot of things for me, and I can go in and poke around and learn about that. Same for alerts. I can set up alerts. If my CPU is running too high, I might want to get an email so I can manually intervene. Even though auto scale is usually there to take care of me, it's nice to know I have that alerting capability. So let's go take a look at our website. I can just use the resource map here to navigate about. And this is an empty website, so we shouldn't see anything interesting here yet. But you will see the kind of stock Azure page that proves that the website is alive. So that's great. And since it's a new app, some of the monitoring and analytics, none of that is really pumping yet because nobody's visiting this site. But here's where we really start to bridge the gap between operations and dev. So I can, right from the website context, say that I want to set up continuous deployment. We offer several providers, some of them available today, others coming soon. And we're going to choose Visual Studio Online. Now I have my team project with all my code in it all set up, so I'm going to choose that. It's going to prompt me to choose a repository, so if I had multiple repositories, I can choose which one. And then within that repository, it'll let me choose the branch, and I only have one again. And that's it. Behind the scenes, Azure is setting up the relationship between the website and that team project. Only takes a couple of seconds. And immediately, I can go navigate and take a look at that team project. Now, in the background, Azure knows that I have code sitting in that repository, so it's going to kick off a build. It's going to make sure everything's good, and then it's going to deploy it to our website. And I mean, this is really what it's all about. This is the DevOps experience. You are seeing side-by-side seamless experiences between the running website and the team project that's doing all my collaboration. So that's really great. And we'll show a richer app, actually the one we were looking at earlier, in just a bit. So from my website, I also get a view of the related items in my resource group. I can see the database we created, as well as that web hosting plan where we got all our auto scale and backup features. So let's take a look at the database. And this is another pretty critical thing in the Azure ecosystem. For the first time, third parties, in this case it's again SuccessBricks, the company that provides ClearDB databases, is able to expose a full-blown management experience within the portal that's on par with any of the Microsoft offerings. They're side by side, there's no seams. I can see real-time information on how much storage I'm taking, how many connections am I using relative to my quota, and just look for this to get richer and richer as we improve the portal. So that's really cool stuff. And before I wrap this intro demo, I just want to quickly show how you can add additional resources to a resource group right from within the portal. So I might want to have some second website in this group that helps do more things for my app. Maybe it's an administrative website. So I can do that and click right here. Get that familiar create experience. And I'm not actually going to create this website, but I did want to point out, here is where I can choose that existing web hosting plan that's already in my resource group. So I already purchased that web hosting plan. I saw that it was going to cost me $70-something a month, roughly. And now I can add this site, and whatever this site does, it's going to cost me exactly $0 additional dollars. So that's pretty cool. We can reuse our web hosting plans there. So with that, let's just take a step back and go to the slides for a second. Slides, please. Next slide, please. Oh, I got it. So we did a quick intro. We showed you how to navigate about the portal. We showed you how to create your first app. So let's talk for a second about what's powering that entire experience. This is just a high-level technology stack for Azure. And at the top of the stack, you've got all the tools. We've got the portal. We've got the cross-platform command line tools. We've got our PowerShell tools. And of course, our flagship IDE in Visual Studio. All these tools are able to provide super rich experiences by targeting our consistent set of management APIs. And powering those management APIs is the new Resource Manager service that was announced earlier today. And we have a slide at the end that's going to point you to a talk right after this. It's at 4 o'clock. In fact, that's where I'm going and Steven's going afterwards. And we're gonna learn all about the Resource Manager. And they'll get into talking about how that Resource Manager service provides you with repeatable template-based deployment, provides you with orchestration across multiple resource providers that sit at the bottom. When I say resource provider, I really mean all the different services in Azure. So that Resource Manager is going to do all the orchestration. It's going to handle dependencies. It does really cool stuff, so definitely check that out. And with that, my time here is up. I'm going to invite Steven to come aboard, and he's going to walk you through how we've been operating that Expressions photo app for the past few days. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Adam. So we can go back to the demo machine. And I'm going to boot up Internet Explorer and log into the portal. So I'm going to be taking the role of a co-administrator for our subscription. So I can just go to portal.azure.com. I can log in. So this will be a different account than the one Adam was using. Azure portal demo. Now, if you're familiar with Azure, you know that having co-administrators for your subscription is a very powerful way to have multiple people be able to come to the portal and use it to access different sets of functionality. So as a co-administrator, I've actually come and I've set up my own customized dashboard that allows me to personalize the experience for the operations experience. So I'm an operator, and I care the most about what exactly the portal is doing as it runs. So as soon as this boots up, you'll see that I've created an extraordinarily rich dashboard that has graphs and charts that cover all the various aspects of my operating service. So as I mentioned, this is a preview portal, so maybe it's not quite as quick as you would hope. Oh, it looks like it booted up here. That was actually the wrong count. So I'm going to come here again. Everybody can try to hack my account since they can see what my username is. And if you haven't had a chance yet, I highly recommend going here and trying it out yourself. I believe it's available as we speak, so let me there we go. If I could switch to the slides for a second so I could type this in a text box and make sure I'm getting the password right. Thanks. Sorry about this, guys. OK, so if we could switch back to the demo now. Great. So this is the portal booting up. Now, depending on your organization size, you may have some people that offer a full end-to-end experience as their role. So they'll be both a developer and an operator. And you'll have other people that do different roles. So we support both in the Azure portal. If you had a chance to look at the talk earlier that was on the first stage of the DevOps scenario, so the kind of stages 1, 2, and 3, where you build, develop, and test your code, that's really focused on that. And I'm going to be showing you just that final step, the operation step. So you can see here, here's the rich dashboard that I was talking about. I wasn't lying, it is actually here. It just takes a little while to load. So this dashboard shows me all of the information that I need to be able to operate my website. It shows me if there are any active alerts. It shows me the requests. It shows me my CPU percentage, so the performance of my site. Now, something to keep in mind about this is you can access this portal on any device. So if you're using a Surface, if you're using an iPad, if you're using a Linux machine, you can come here because this is HTML. It's built on the latest web standards. So you can use this. It looks like a native app, but it'll function on whatever platform you want. So it's an incredibly new, powerful metaphor. And we'll be bringing more and more into this new style of web app as time goes on. So I've customized this. Now I want to start showing you how we're operating that expressions app that you saw a little earlier. I'm really curious what you guys were doing with that app. So I can actually click on the Browse Hub, and I can get a list of the various resources that I have. So I can see all of the websites that we have. We've created, Adam created this a little earlier, and I can click on the expressions demo website. Now, when you come here, you can see we've filled it out with a bunch of data. We had some load tests going a little earlier. And I can actually drill onto any of these parts and get additional information. Now, this graph isn't particularly useful because you can see it's showing me the entire day. So what I'm actually interested in is if people came to the website in just the past hour. So you can highly customize all of the charts that we have here in the portal. So if I go to the Edit Query, I get this query blade that I can use to say, I want to zoom in to just the past hour of my usage. Now I can go here and I can say, just add a couple other metrics if I'm interested in, have there been other types of errors on my site? So not only can you adjust the time range and the set of metrics, but you can also save those customizations. So I hit save, and now what's going to happen is you're going to see there was this huge spike at 2:30. Well, hopefully that was all of you going to your phones, going to your tablets, going to your laptops, and coming into the site. But now it's not very popular anymore. I guess it doesn't have a lot of staying power. But you can see we have aggregates below the graph that show you have there been other types of errors. There have been a couple other errors, no server errors though, so that means our code appears to be rock solid. At the bottom, we show you if you've defined any alerts for these metrics. So you can define alerts on any metric that you can see here in the portal. Now, this content shows up for free for any website. So I'm really going to focus this demo on our website service, the platform as a service. But any Azure service will have all of these metrics enabled without any configuration on your part. Azure Website supports applications written in PHP, in Python, in Java, and all of these, it doesn't matter what platform you use, what technology you build your stack on, you will get all this information without any additional configuration. Now, this did a good job of showing me what was the total number of requests, but I'm really curious what devices you all are using. So I can click on the analytics part on the website, and I can see additional information. And in this case, I can see a lot of people are using Internet Explorer, but there were a few Safari users and a lot of mobile devices. So that must mean that there's some people out there with iPhones, but more people out there using Windows technologies. You can even drill in on this, and you can see exactly what types of browsers and what browser versions people are using. So in this case, I can see IE10 is more popular than IE11, so that means I probably shouldn't cut support for IE10 quite yet. Now, in addition to showing you the browser distribution, we also show you how different pages are used on my site. In our case, we just had that one landing page, so not a lot of variation. But you can imagine if you had a wide variety of pages on your site, you could see that breakdown here, and you could see a full distribution of all of the pages and how they're being hit, how many sessions and views they have. We also expose to you the performance of your website. So if you come in and you want to know how long does it take for a user to load the web page, you can see that here. In this case, the average page load time is about 2.2 seconds, which is pretty good. So I don't need to worry about improving that right now. Now, you may be wondering, how hard is it to set this up? It actually is extraordinarily easy to get client-side analytics in addition to the server analytics that come by default. All you have to do is go to the code snippet for any of your websites and just copy this into your web page. I can go up here and I can just go to the expdemo.azurewebsites.net. I can go to the demo and I can go to the HTML of this page and show you exactly, that's exactly what we did. So you see here, this script was all that we needed to get all of those useful user analytics. So I'll pause here for a moment. What we have done is we have brought in information from two completely separate services. For our competing cloud, for the other competing cloud providers out there, they don't do this. So if you're using a service that provides you with a bunch of VMs, it's not going to have a single dashboard that brings in information from the analytics side, from the clients. You'll probably have to go out to a separate software vendor, get some other service to provide you with client-side analytics. Here, we can bring it all together because of the power and extensibility of this new Azure portal. So I first covered investigating website usage. There's two other topics I'm going to cover. I'm going to talk about the performance of your website and figuring out what events are happening on your website. So first, the performance. One of the great tools that we have to understand the performance at a high level of your site is web tests. Web tests show you the response time and availability of your website as time goes on. In this case, I've set up a web test that actually pings my site from data centers around the world. If you have users in Europe, in Asia, in any continent, you can set up these tests so you can understand how well your site performs from all of those geographic locations. You can drill on any one of these. You can see my availability has been really good. I've had really good performance, but I have had one failure. So you can see that here. You can actually see and drill down on exactly what has happened. If you're familiar with web tests, you know that you can actually click on this and open up in Visual Studio a full history of what happened for that particular event. I'm not going to do that here because I'm going to focus on just this portal today, but it's a great feature to be able to understand exactly what's happening. Now, since my site failed in Hong Kong, I may want to consider setting up a separate geographic location for my site. As was announced at the keynote, we now have the ability to set up Traffic Manager where you have a site, say, in Asia and another site in the United States, and you balance traffic between them. And you know that you may need to do that by setting up web tests and observing what the performance is for your site from across the world. In fact, conveniently, Adam already did that for me earlier. So you may have noticed that he deployed a new website, and he used the source code from the same team project as this website. So if I go to Build Thursday Demo, I should be able to click on Browse, and hopefully I will get that exact same site that you all have been looking at, but running from Asia instead of from the United States. And you can see it's a bit slower than the site here, but here it is, it loaded. So this is a geo-distributed system. I'm not going to show setting up the Traffic Manager itself today, but there will be additional talks on how to create websites at scale from across the world. Now, an important aspect of the performance of your website is the underlying infrastructure that it runs on. So this resource map is a valuable tool to be able to understand the full layout of your application. In our case, we have the web hosting plan that represents the underlying servers of our site. We've set up here a good way to see into the metrics of the site. In this case, just like any other virtual machines, you have a certain memory quota, a certain CPU quota. And to ensure that your CPU usage is always within healthy boundaries, we have autoscale. Now, autoscale is one of my favorite features, and I think it's one of Adam's as well. He mentioned that a little earlier. And the reason for that is autoscale can ensure that your site is always up and running, and it can handle whatever load comes to it. Now that autoscale is generally available, as we just heard, it will now, in fact, be turned on by default to scale you just from between 1 and 2 instances if you create a new website in the standard mode through this portal, just to give you a taste of the power that it offers you. Of course, you can come in here and you can configure autoscale so that way it performs exactly as you want. As with in the existing portal, you have simple sliders that let you set the boundaries of autoscale performance. We will even update this chart to show you the history of the autoscale actions as they happen in real time. Now, I want to be sure that I never spend too much money, so I can put a hard cap, but you can put this up to 10 instances if you want to have a large number of virtual machines to serve your website traffic. Also, new in this portal is the ability to choose other performance metrics for your site. So CPU is generally going to be a very good indication of how hot your website is running. But I was talking to the website team, and they mentioned that HTTP queue length is another indication of how much traffic my site has. It represents the number of pending requests. So you can see here that I've come and added that as a performance metric. And I can drill down and see exactly what I've done. So I've set HTTP queue length, but you can see here in this preview graph, it's actually been completely flat. So the website team probably was thinking about sites that have a bit higher load than our expressions app that you were just playing with a little earlier. So maybe not necessary for our app. But you can see here that I have full control that you'd expect. So you can come in, you can set what threshold for the metric you want, and how much you want to scale by. So what this means here is if my website ever had more than 100 pending requests, I would get an additional instance. This probably is too aggressive, so I can just scale this down to 10, and of course, click Save at the top, and that will update my autoscale profile. Now, you may have noticed that over on the left here, there was a bright green flash. That flash indicated that I successfully saved my settings. Whenever you make a change in the portal, you can always come to this notification hub and see all of the actions that you've taken. In fact, you may notice that there's all of these deployments succeeded. Now, I'm logged in with my account. I didn't log in with Adam's account, but I see anything that happened to this subscription because we have a single backend, even though you have different code administrators. So you can see the full history of everything that's happened to this subscription by just going to the notification hub. So I'm going to save out these settings as well, and we can close out all of this. Now, I've talked about setting up autoscale, but I haven't shown you how to actually see the performance of your site itself. So you can actually see that now in the new portal. And I can click on this. Now, you may notice it says the CPU percentage is 348%. That's not quite right. We're not burning down the data center or anything. But there are a few bugs that we're working out, so this will be fixed in the coming days, and it'll show you the actual CPU percentage. But this graph is accurate. Now, a powerful feature that we have in this portal is customization. You may have heard that you can pin items to the start board, so that way you can put content here. But what we actually expose is the ability to customize every single blade that you have in the portal. So I can go into organize mode here, and I can customize, and I can make this part tall, let's say. I can, in fact, clone this part. So if I want to set up a few charts side by side, I can come in here, and I can set up 3 different charts on my blade. I could even drag this to my website blade if I want to see the performance of my CPU at the same time that I see my requests. This experience is personalizable so that way when you operate your service, you can tailor your experience in the portal to match exactly what you need. Now, I've duplicated this, not so that way I can see CPU 3 times, but so that way I can actually see 3 separate metrics. So I can come in, I can hit memory percentage, I don't need CPU, and I can also adjust this and see that queue length that I just talked about. So now I've shown you how to investigate the performance of your site, as well as how to customize your dashboard, and your blades. The third topic that I want to talk about is being able to access the events of your site. Now, I've been taking all of these scaling actions, as you saw up here. There's been a lot going on. What we now offer is a single view that shows you all of the events of your site. Now, this experience here, you can see I've taken lots of scale up and scale down actions. You can, of course, drill down onto any of these, and you can see the exact details of this action. Now, it's not maybe the most visually pleasing of experience, but this is very useful so that way you can debug exactly what's happening in your service. If there was a failed action here, it would show you every single detail about what's failed, as well as information like the operation ID. So you could call up support if you really needed to and say, hey, I tried to do this thing. You can give them the operation ID, and they can actually look in our logs and jump right to that thing. In this case, it was a successful scale action, but you can see there's a description. The auto-scale engine was scaling this resource. It gives me the old instance count and the new instance count. So this eventing infrastructure will span all of the resources that we have in Azure today. Now, if I want to be able to generate my own events, I could set up an alert rule. In this case, you notice that we had a huge CPU spike earlier in the day. That was us running a load test in preparation for the demo. But I actually want to be informed when I'm not necessarily just looking at my awesome dashboard that something has gone wrong. So I can come in here, and I can click Add Alert. I can give a name for my alert. So I just want to know, is CPU high? So I go CPU. I can choose CPU percentage, greater than, of course, and then I can just type a number. And what will happen is this will actually update this graph in real time, so that way I can see what this threshold is compared to the historical usage. Now, this would never be triggered, so I could go back and say, 60%, and you can see that the load tests that we ran earlier would have triggered this alert. Now, another feature that we have for alerts is the ability to enter a custom email address. And while this may sound simple, it is actually incredibly powerful, because you could enter a SMS gateway here, or if you use a third-party paging service like PagerDuty, you could enter the PagerDuty gateway here as well. And that way, whenever something happens on your site, you'll be informed by it via this alerting infrastructure. So in this case, I'll click Save, and you'll see this alert will be created off on the left here. So you see, again, that consistent way of showing you the operations are successful. And I can close that out. Now, returning to the website, I've shown you some events that have happened historically, but I haven't shown you events happening in real time. And we now have the ability to do that. So when I click on Streaming Logs, we will actually show you events coming to the site in real time. So if any of you out there want to return to our Expressions app and do a few votes for some of the tags, we can actually see those show up as soon as display loads. And it's taking a few seconds. There we go. It's now connected. So you can see this is actually a live view of everything that is happening in the site. So I can see there's a lot of you, actually. Let's see what you're thinking. Some of you think that we need to take a nap, but a lot of people are thinking. So that's great. I'm hoping that this talk provokes a lot of thought in you. Hopefully, you're not too sad. But as you can see, this is a great feature to understand exactly what's happening. Now, to enable this, I've actually turned on verbose logging. You'd imagine that if you had a real functioning site, you wouldn't want to see hundreds of thousands of log entries every minute. But you can, of course, adjust the verbosity of that so you could only see errors. So if something is going wrong with your site, you can come in and figure out exactly what's going on. That functionality is actually also available in Visual Studio if you're using the latest version of that. Now, this gives you the ability to see events in real time, which is great. But we also have the ability to take write operations on your site. So I want to be able to come in here and actually work with an interactive console to operate my website live. So in this case, first I'm going to go up here and I'm going to just return to that website real quick. expdemo.azurewebsites.net. And you can see, if we come to the top, all of the pictures here. And then so I'll be able to see and compare exactly what you've tagged. So this interactive console, I can click in there. And I can see that I've created a series of tools. So this operates just like you'd expect for any console. So I can just do an ls. And I can see now a list of all the tools that I've created to operate my website as an operator. I've created, in particular, a program called Album Manager CMD. So I can use that, Album Manager CMD, and I can just list tags. And this will show me a list of all the tags that you guys have chosen. In this case, it looks like I think we had only 5 tags total, so it showed me all 5, which isn't particularly interesting. But if you want to be able to take maintenance on your website, you want to be able to change the state of your site as well, of course, right? So I can come here, and I can say, you just hit up, and like you'd expect, you can get the previous command, and I can actually clear the tags. Now, because this is a destructive action, I've modified my tool that it requires me to type the name of the album and to force it, because I don't want to accidentally delete out all the tags. And if I hit that, it will successfully remove all the tags from my back end. And then if I list tags again, I can see that somebody has come in and tagged sad, but all of the other tags have been cleared out. So you can use this to perform actions on your site as it's running in real time. So it's really great. Now, all of this capability is available for you now for websites. And we will be working on exposing some other resources. So you can see here, I can go into a SQL database that we have connected to this website. This, of course, rolls up to this billing hub here. So the billing hub gives you visibility into all of the costs for your entire subscription. Now, this is a free trial that we're using because it's actually hard to get a subscription inside Microsoft that has real money associated with it. And this free trial started out with $200 of credit. We will actually project for your subscription when you're going to run out of monetary credit, if you have any. Now, in addition, we also show you the breakdown of all of the costs across your entire subscription. In this case, we created a couple standard websites. So for that, we've actually focused almost all of our money to be spent on the websites. But you can see there's a little money being spent on that database that we created. In addition, in this billing hub, you can also adjust who are the administrators of the subscription. So I can come in here, and I can see a list of all the admins. In this case, you can see that login that I use, the Azure Portal Demo at Outlook.com, that's a co-admin. And Azure Portal Outlook.com, that's Adam from earlier. He's the account administrator. The one last thing I want to show is that although there's all this awesome functionality built into this portal, there are still some things that we don't have. But we try to do a good job of letting you use this portal side by side with the full Azure portal that you've come to know and love. So when I went to the console, I cleared out all the tags. But what I actually want to do is I want to have the tags reset every day at the end of the day. The way to do that would be to create a web job. So I've actually already created a web job here. But you'll see when I click on that, I won't be able to use that in this portal. And that's just because we haven't had a chance to quite build it yet. But I can just click on Go, and I'll be taken directly to the older portal, the full portal, and you'll see here that I didn't have to sign in again. You may remember that I had to kind of awkwardly sign in at the beginning of the demo. So it's just proving that this is actually taking the same credentials that I have from this portal and using them here. So a single sign-on experience. And of course, all of those websites, including the new one that Adam created, show up here. So you can see the full list in both experiences. Every change that you make in this portal will flow back to the new portal and vice versa. As you can see, we have web jobs here. And web jobs are a great feature that allow you to schedule actions. So I could set up a web job here that uses the new scheduler service. And you may have also heard the scheduler service is now released to general availability, so you can use that as well. So to talk about what we just saw, if we could return to the slides. And we can just go to the next slide. I can do that too. We spent a lot of time talking about the Azure Portal Preview. So that's the new exciting thing that we released today. It really gives you the ability to have a full end-to-end experience. You can start in code, you can deploy that code, and you saw Adam went and he actually took his website and deployed our code from our source control onto that website. We then were able to fully operate that website. We were able to see the monitoring data. We were able to set up auto scale. We were able to set up alerts, so that way if something ever went wrong, I would be informed. All this was available in the Portal Preview, and it was enabled by the underlying resource manager that kind of stitches that all together. The Azure Portal Preview is an enterprise-grade release. It has all of the auth that you would expect for the portal, so it's the full Microsoft quality that you've come to know. We bring together islands of experiences. So you have your analytics at the exact same place that you have your monitoring data, at the same place that you can take actions on your website, or that you can see all of the history of your website. It's all together in one place. Now, I focused on websites, but you can imagine that any service that we come to offer will have that similar consistency across all of the services. So whatever experience we bring into this portal will have that same level of fidelity. Of course, it's highly customizable. I'm able to not just customize the start board, but I can also customize every single blade. I can clone parts. I can drag parts from blade to blade. You can do whatever you want to build your own views into the Azure portal. Of course, discovery of new features is particularly easy. We have a rich gallery that shows you all of the services that we offer, as well as services that are provided by third parties. All of these are together in one place, so that way you can expose your own services if you want. Now, we've shown you just one small slice of what we have to offer, just the kind of the ops portion of the DevOps lifecycle, and just the portal aspect. There's a lot more that we have to show you. So after this session, as Adam mentioned earlier, there's a resource manager that you can learn about in Hall 1A. Another thing you may notice is that I talked just about the websites, just about the PaaS side of things, but there's also been some great movements in DevOps for the infrastructure as a service side of Azure. And Puppet is key to that. So there's also a Puppet session that's after this. Puppet is a configuration management service that allows you to push configuration to all of your infrastructure as a service virtual machines. Web tests and analytics, if you'd like to learn about that in more detail, you can go to that session tomorrow. And if you want to learn about what's new with websites, or how to manage websites at scale, at large volumes of requests and numbers, there's 2 more sessions on that. One is at 5:30 in this room, and tomorrow at 10:30. So I'm going to invite Adam back onto the stage. And I think we have 10 minutes to take some questions and hear from you what you guys think. Number 3?
Yeah, there was a question last session about what are the differences or advantages of websites over cloud services and vice versa. And I really wanted to hear the answer, and they suggested that we ask you.
Yeah, they turned my mic on, good. Yeah, so we do offer 2 ways to enable websites in Azure. We've got the Azure Website Service that we talked about today, which is basically the highest level of PaaS that we offer. Everything is managed for you. Much less of the infrastructure is exposed to you. But both services offer a great kind of overlap of features as well, so that no matter which one you choose for you, you'll kind of get the result you want. The cloud services offering does expose a bit more of the underlying infrastructure and does give you a little bit more visibility into what's going on there. So for certain scenarios, that's going to be optimal if those features make sense for you. Any other questions? We couldn't have been that good. No?
So there was another question last session about using the portal to manage both on-premises and cloud resources, and I saw on one of your slides that the resource management layer was on top of both the cloud and on-premise. Is there anything you can say about what's going on there, or how to enable that?
Well, I think they sort of, I'm going to give a similar answer that they gave last time. Even with the current Azure portal and the current Azure services, there is a product called the Windows Azure Pack that provides a consistent experience for many of the Azure services, whether you're on-prem or in the cloud. And that on-prem stack kind of brings in some more kind of resource management that helps you manage your actual physical infrastructure, something you don't have to worry about with the cloud. And kind of similar to the answer Bradley gave, that would obviously be something that we'd like to push forward, and we'll continue with this experience as well.
So I'm wondering, the tooling you've got here is all on the websites, visible in the portal. Is the same tooling available for the cloud services for the web roles?
So not yet. So anything that you can do here, well, the vast majority of things you can do here, you can of course do in the full Azure portal today. So that is where we recommend you manage your cloud services. Over time, we will be pulling all of the experiences that we have in the current Azure portal into the new preview portal. But that's going to be a process that's going to take a lot of time. So we show just kind of one vertical and have that work really well. And then over time, we'll bring in additional ones. But you're correct, not today can you do that.
Mark, my team was trying to use application insights with websites, but we are not able to get it to work. You know if it's working now or there's anything new about that?
How long ago were you trying this?
Yeah, 1 week ago.
OK. So it absolutely should work. That was one of the things I showed in the demo. So you can see that it is working with websites. There are a couple of different aspects to App Insights. So there's the usage analytics stuff, which I showed here, which gives you client-side metrics. There's also
What's the other things? The server metrics, the ones from CPU and memory usage, and the other.
So you may have noticed I did not show that from App Insights, and that's because you are correct. It is not currently available through the App Insights experience. But if you are using an Azure website, you should be able to see all of that information now in the preview portal. So in the full Azure portal today, you actually can't get that CPU metrics. That's probably why you were trying to set up Application Insights. But it's actually all available, not through App Insights, but really natively built into Azure today in the preview portal.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you have any plans to build a deeper permissions model into the portal, something more than just the co-admin that you have today?
So that's a piece of feedback that we received a lot of. So it's definitely something that we're looking at. Unfortunately, I can't comment on how soon that may be coming, but it's definitely something that we've heard loud and clear from customers. So great feedback.
Yeah, and actually, you're seeing the beginnings of that today as well. In the previous demo, Michael and Bradley showed how, even though Bradley was the person who owned the subscription, he was able to give permission to Michael to only have access to a particular TFS team project. So at least from a developer perspective, he was able to make it so that Michael could manage the team project, but not see anything else in the subscription. So you're seeing sort of the beginnings of us kind of delivering on that promise Stephen just made.
Any other questions?
Going once, going twice.
So we'll be up here afterwards if you don't want to tell everybody what your question is. So feel free to come on up. And yeah.
Yeah, and follow us to the resource manager talk in a few minutes. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you very much.